is your episode about the cowboy?
The Cowboy. The Cowboy is about a young student from Nigeria who comes here to get a master's in economics and then plans to return home so that he can use the skills he picks up here to expand his family business at home. And then while here, because of a kind of unexpected political upheaval at home, he's forced to remain in the United States. And so he goes kind of from being a sojourner to being an immigrant overnight. And so it's, I guess, the story of someone who has to grapple with the fact that they were in a land that was going to be temporary and now it's become home.
Well, what's interesting, you're also writing a story about a very intense culture and family bonding.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to be Nigerian and coming from that country and then being torn away from not being able to go back.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. So when you were writing that story, what was your driving passion in terms of like getting that story on the page?
Yeah, I mean, the real thing I think was to so that the audience could feel maybe a small fraction of what it would feel like, was to give this man the personality that he really has, which is overflowing and positive and optimistic, and he's such a kind of creative force. And so to have us fall in love with him and to have us be with him in the moment when he realizes that he's alone here and he will be alone here for a long time. Yeah. So, but certainly you were dead on there with the family. And
Because I think people forget that even when you're an immigrant and you come to America to hone your skills or get better at what you do, many immigrants, they want to go home. They want to go back and make a difference. It's not like they want to stay here. So they're given this perception that when you're here, why? So I love that you're putting that story on the page. When you're writing the story and the whole vision of being an immigrant, what did that represent to you in terms of like what an immigrant feels like? How do you view that?
wow, that's such a good question. In the case of this man, this young student, really, because he didn't come here intending to stay, he's the kind of he's the unintentional immigrant. And so, as you're pointing out, it's an unusual story because you think of people who are coming here with a lot of intention. And so, someone who came here, their intention was to leave, and they got trapped in a sense. And so, I think making you understand how deeply connected he is to his family, and also how deeply he is connected to his culture. And so what ends up happening is, once he's stuck here, he has to find a way to be at home. And what's so remarkable about this person is that the way that he feels most at home in this telling is that he finds elements of his culture in the culture of the Cowboys of Oklahoma, which is the last place you would expect someone to find it. But when speaking with the man himself, he really has a way of putting it. But I guess there are certain qualities about the cowboy, about the something about the rugged individual, and someone who has to kind of move through the land, and they do their work, and there may be difficult times, and yet they continue to move. And so, yeah.
And I love you using the cowboy, because the cowboy is such an iconic American thing, which I think really had that. So you have that difference between the Nigerian culture and you bring in the cowboy American experience, and that is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think it's fabulous.
Actually, what's really interesting about cowboy culture, because this is a person who grew up actually watching. He describes it that they would bring, a guy with a projector would come around to the villages, and they would project on the wall of a building, and he would watch Clint Eastwood movies as a little kid. And so he thought cowboys were some mythical thing. He didn't even know that they were real until he saw them when he got to Oklahoma, and he was shocked by that. But what's even more interesting to me is that the movies he was watching, these iconic kind of movies about cowboys, were often made by Italians shooting in Spain. And so the whole thing is like, one of the most iconic images of America is actually created by immigrants.
I so wish I had more time to talk to you to find out about the story. But do you have social media so people can follow you?
Oh yes, I mean, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Brian Savelson.
So my name's Amir Al-Qadi. I'm originally from Iraq. I came to the UK when I was 12, so and have a lot of complicated issues with my family because of my sexuality. And then I'm a drag performer and a screenwriter. And then when Stephen came to me with this project, I was a bit like, this is weird. This is almost like the Truman Show is like reflecting my life. And I was like, we just had to work on it together. I mean, it was like the best thing I've ever worked on, honestly. I've had the time of my life doing it.
What was, I suppose, the most important point you wanted to get across? Obviously, there must have been many points, but what was the thing that you felt, I wanted to get that out there? What would that have been?
I think, well, it's based on a true story of a real person, Shadi Ismail, who fled his homeland of Syria to seek safety, to go enter the United States. And I think for us, we really wanted to make sure that when we were telling the story, that we weren't expressing this in a way where he, the Middle East is bad and he needed to get out because America is the solution to all of your problems. Like, we wanted to approach the story with empathy and express how difficult it is to leave your home and to leave your family, and to show the love and that vibrant nature that exists in the Middle East. So we wanted to avoid all of the tropes that you see on television.
I don't think the episode is really like about the arrival into America. The episode is actually about having to leave home and find a new one. We also, there is such a huge responsibility in terms of representing the Middle East in a way that we just don't get to see on screen. I think Middle Eastern characters are often villains in a lot of narratives, and we really wanted to from the get-go, explore some of the stuff that I'm really sad I can't go to the Middle East anymore because of safety reasons. But, the feasting that we used to do in the Middle East and all the rich, I don't actually get in the West. It's funny, like the way that we treat the elderly in the UK and America, like we find it quite barbaric in the Middle East, because the older you get in the Middle East, like the more of a queen you get. So like your grandmother is literally like, people like bow down. So like we wanted to just give all that texture in as well. You have power as a writer. Like, this is the first thing of this scale that I've ever worked on. So like when I first got it, I just thought, I'll do whatever you want me to do because this is such a big opportunity. But actually, I think to all writers who feel like, we're both queer and maybe we don't feel like we've got a place in Hollywood or whatever, but actually just sticking to your guns and making sure the story is what you want it to be, actually I think has a lot of power, and people respect you more as a result. But it's taken a while to get there. Sure. My early work, I used to just be like, I'll write whatever you want me to write.
I mean, I have such an appreciation for this project, and I think to be able to collaborate with Amru and do something that really for a lot of queer Arab folk, this might be the very first time that they will have ever seen themselves on television. And as a white queer filmmaker, I've had shows like Queer as Folk, and I've had exposure to narratives that reflect me, and to be able to collaborate with Amru to work and create this episode, and to have it resonate with a community that has never seen itself before is a huge honor, and I feel so grateful.
And also keep going, because this also almost didn't happen. Yeah. It got shoots got cancelled, travel bans got in the way.
So fans can find you, follow you, and stay in touch.
At Glamrou, which is GLAMROU. Pardon? Oh, thanks.
And I am at not Stephen Dunn, which is actually Stephen Dunn, and that's Stephen with a PH. Thank you.
Congratulations. Can't wait to see it. Thank you.